The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Loudon Swain.
Greg Metcalf, Tony Ramos,
Ryan Shute,
Mike Golick,
Bubba J,
Johnny Hendricks, Matthew Modine,
the one and only Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
I'm three-time National Wrestling Writer and Broadcaster of the Year, Jason Bryant, and I'll bring you news, reviews, previews, and interviews with the most notable names and personalities in wrestling. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app by logging on to matttalkonline.com/listen and leave a review for the show at matttalkonline.com/getshorttime. Short Time is sponsored by Flips Wrestling. Share your attitude and be heard at flipswrestling.com. Now it's time, because you've always got time, for Short Time. You know that saying that behind Chuck Norris's beard is another fist? Well, behind Andy Bisek's mustache is like another gut wrench or something. I don't know. I can't think of anything amusing, but we'll have an interesting conversation today on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, episode 183, with world bronze medalist Andy Bisek. He'll talk a little bit about his medal in Taskhent, dealing with foodborne illness in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, what he's looking forward to with the World Championships coming up in Las Vegas. Before we get to that, a couple news items I want to talk to you about. First, Nebraska Wesleyan is adding a Division III wrestling program. That'll be starting up in 2016 and 17. This coming on the heels of Knox and Yeshiva dropping their programs, but Nebraska Wesleyan adding a Division III wrestling program. The Pan American Games start on Wednesday, July 15th. At least they've started for the other sports, but wrestling starts on the 15th. Check those out on a live stream on ESPN3.com. So if you've got the cable system and the internet network that will work with ESPN3.com, you should be able to watch. I'm not sure what they're streaming, how they're streaming it, who's on the call. I know I'm not, because I'm sitting in Minnesota, which is in a lot of ways South Canada. But ESPN3.com with action Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Interesting news break today by Christian Piles at Flow Wrestling, reporting that Nico Reyes from Illinois is transferring to Northern Colorado to wrestle for Coach Troy Nickerson. Interesting pickup there. Nice move, as Northern Colorado's picked up a couple of transfers. So the Bears, if you're out west and you say UNC, a lot of people are going to say Northern Colorado. If you're pretty much anywhere else, they're going to think North Carolina, but the Bears of the University of Northern Colorado picking up Nico Reyes, multiple-time NCAA qualifier. You might have seen him in the brackets as Lazarus. The revenge of Zane Rutherford, also today in social media. It might have been a day or so ago, but last week, Jason Nolf of Penn State hit Zane Rutherford with an RKO. And if you're unfamiliar with the world of RKOs, it was like an internet meme that was going around. People are making short little Vine videos with Randy Orton, a professional wrestler, coming in with Jerry Lawler, doing the voiceover and dropping his finishing maneuver. And it's become kind of a craze. It's actually kind of on the way out a little bit, but when you do it in live action like Jason Nolf did, it was actually quite entertaining. I called it sheer poetry, I believe. And Zane Train actually got his revenge with a Batista bomb at the Penn State camp. So keep an eye on that. Little programming note that the Maryland Matt Chat, episode 15, which is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network, dropped today. Yusuf Hamida, the incoming heavyweight. Interesting conversation with that young man, just 17, heading to College Park. You can listen to that by going to marylandmattchat.com/15. Couple calls to action for you. The Fargo Almanac. The actual title is the Cadet and Junior Nationals All-American Almanac. It is now for sale at matttalkonline.com/Fargo Guide. And here's the thing. If you listen to this program, of course you listen to this program because you're listening to this program now, you're going to get a nice little $5 off of this almanac by, again going to matttalkonline.com/guide. And when you click I want this in the checkout area, you can enter an offer code. Enter offer code JB, and you will save $5 off the cover price. It's $20 normally, and the reason why, there's 219 pages of content. I mean, this is every All-American, all-time, from the Cadet and Junior Nationals going back to 1971. It's listed by year, and then you have a state-by-state breakdown and then a style-by-style breakdown within that state. We also have notable records, things that have never been done before. Yeah, 219 pages of content. You can save $5 by going to MadTalkOnline.com/Fargo Guide and entering the promo code JB. So if you're listening to the show regularly or you get the newsletter, which you can sign up for free at MadTalkOnline.com/news, you will have already gotten this deal in email. So this one, yep, this is just for you guys. $5 with that promo code JB. Latest 5-star review comes from Scott Mayfield. Thanks, Scott, for taking the time to write a 5-star review on iTunes. You can do that at MadTalkOnline.com/GetShortTime. And as I was talking about this almanac, 219 pages, it'll be digitally delivered. And for those of you that will be in Fargo, I will do some special ordering of this to print them out. And they are expensive to print. So come find me in Fargo. Follow me on social media at Jason M. Bryan or at Matt Talk Online. We'll see what we can do. We'll also put a link into the episode notes at MadTalkOnline.com/183. Also, a little bit of a programming note. Coming up on Friday's edition of the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, I will talk to Tim Mahoney. Who is Tim Mahoney, you say? Well, Mr. Mahoney is the mayor of Fargo, North Dakota, so we will get his take on the upcoming Cadet and Junior Nationals coming to Fargo. First whistle blows July 18th with Cadet women, and this is almost a landmark moment because at this point, this will be my 17th straight year attending the tournament that has been lovingly known as Fargo, and I bought a Bison Turf mug back when I was there in 1999. I've been taking that same mug back ever since. Now, I have accumulated several more mugs over the years, but this one mug only gets used at that particular special dive, and of course, I'm of age. I can say things about beer on my show. I'm not going to mark it explicit or edit it. Mike Malanconico he joins Matthew Modine as one of the only two shows that got the explicit tag. So if you want to listen to Mike Malanconico talk about some of his lock-ins, you can go back to MadTalkOnline.com/182 and check out that fun interview. So with that, that's the housekeeping. Again, the almanac available for sale. Promo code JB, save $5. And actually, you know what? Before I go, I have to give Corey Hill and his boys at Worldwide Wrestling Supply some props. You can follow them on Twitter at Backpoints. And when the Jordan Burroughs JB Elite TRs were announced that they were going to be out for a limited run on July 1, I was searching the web to figure out where I could find them. I went everywhere, and you know what? Worldwide Sports Supply got me my pair of red and Olympic gold JB Elite TRs, and I am wearing them as we speak. I will be wearing them to Fargo. It's time for wrestling. We've got our own Jordans now. And, of course, the gray ones in my size, which is 12.5, I don't think I can get them till like November, but I want to say shout out to my buddy Corey Hill for really, really coming through and making sure I can actually rock these things at the Junior Nationals. I never, ever in my life bought a pair of Air Jordan Nikes. Let me tell you what I did as soon as I heard about Jordan Burroughs shoes. I made sure I got a pair. They are here. They look sharp. My wife even goes, ooh, those are nice. So, yeah. Corey Hill, thanks for getting it taken care of. I was sweating a little bit because they were supposed to be here Saturday, and sometimes you can't always rely on the post office. It reminds me of that old there was an old bit. I don't know if it was a cartoon or it was a bit, and it said, well, it might have been Jeff Dunham with his puppets or something way back in the day. And he said, some guy's like, it's my job to be slow. It might have been the old man puppet, whatever. Yeah, I'm talking about puppets here on Short Time. Anyway, he was like, well, it's my job to be slow. Well, what do? I work for the United States Postal Service. Now, it was kind of a joke. So anybody out there that's a postman or postwoman or a postal worker, I kid. But guess what? JB Elite TRs on my feet. They feel great. I don't even think I'm going to use them to work out, and they're going to be my street shoes. They're going to be, I'm going to wear these with a nice pair of jeans. I'm going to go out. Yeah, I'm going to rock these things. So better than rocking my other Asics running shoes, which I like to wear just to run and work out and walk around with a stroller and take my daughter to the park. But anyway, I'm harping on this. Yes, no Air Jordans for me. Give me the JB Elite TRs. Worldwide Sport Supply. Thank you. You guys rock. Now let's talk to the stash, the cowboy, the Chuck Norris of wrestling, the Sheriff, Magnum, whatever. You know, Andy Bisek, he's up now on Short Time. Now, our guest today is Andy Bisek, 2014 World Bronze Medalist. He will be representing the United States for the fourth time at the World Championships coming up in Las Vegas in September. And Andy, when we talk about Greco-Roman wrestling, we talk about your emergence as a Greco-Roman star in the United States. Do you have to take a second to look back and be like, holy crap, dude, I'm a world medalist?
Yeah, definitely come a long ways. Going to Northern Michigan, I was, came into that room, not beating anybody in that room, and kind of working my way up, and now getting to where I've become a world medalist. It's definitely a long journey.
Well, you touch on Northern Michigan. Coming out of high school, I believe, your best finish at the Minnesota State Championships was third. And when we look back at I actually just wrote this little piece for the Minnesota Storm site that your best Fargo finish was seventh in 2004. So 11 years ago, you were just barely in that All-American. You were seventh, and now there you go. You look 10 years later, and you're third in the world.
Yeah, exactly. It's a long journey, but just keep going in, day out, and pushing through.
I'm originally from Chaska, Minnesota. Now, when I was doing some digging, I had to go through the Guillotine website, and I was looking up for some things. And there was a Bisek that was a state champ in 1987, 105 pounds from New Prague. Any relation there?
Yeah, that would be my uncle.
So wrestling runs in the family, so I would assume you started wrestling fairly early. Like in Minnesota, it's hockey and wrestling, right?
Yeah. But unfortunately, in the high school I went to, it was basketball and hockey.
So, yeah, I mean, and when we talk about your high school, a couple names people might know. Pat Smith, who wrestled at the University of Minnesota, has been on the University World Team and been a training partner in Greco. And, of course, Intermatch Andrew Hips, also a Chaska grad. So a little bit of wrestling culture coming out of that high school.
Yeah, well, Chaska's never had a state champ.
But but you're their first world medalist, though.
Yeah, and last year Pat Smith took second at University Worlds, too. It was a good summer.
Yeah, so I mean, you can take that basketball and hockey and say, hey, yeah, you want state championships? Here's some world medals for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Now let's talk a little bit about the opportunity to go to Northern Michigan. We talked with Spencer about this on a previous episode, and he was going to go Division II at Truman State. Rumor is that you were also going to go Division II, Minnesota State Mankato, but then I guess a conversation with some guy named Ivan Ivanov changed all that.
Yeah, Ivan and both Chazz Betts. It was at the Augsburg camp before Fargo. I talked to Chazz where he was going. He told me what he was doing, and it was the first time I had heard of that opportunity. I was interested, asked him what I would need to do. He said, well, we can see and talk to Ivan at Fargo, and Ivan told me I needed to take top 7, and that's what I did. So.
Yeah, so did it surprise you at all that Chazz, who had some pretty good national Greco-Roman success up to that point, did it surprise you that Chazz was going that route?
Just to the fact that I didn't really know it existed. I was sure Chazz was going to be wrestling somewhere after high school, but when he told me he's going to a Greco school, it kind of made sense.
When you talk about Minnesota Storm and the Greco-Roman, big Greco-Roman culture up here, obviously with the number of Olympians and, of course, Dan Chandler being involved in both the developmental and the senior level. What was it about Greco that you found a little more enjoyable for you? Or was it more enjoyable of the fact that you were just better at it?
I kind of, I guess, saw myself a little better in freestyle, but the people that were doing Greco were much more fun. I was enjoying it a lot more, and then I kind of switched and saw myself more successful in Greco. So I wanted to keep doing that. The environment I had always been in for Greco was fun, and it was keeping wrestling fun and interesting for me.
So when you make the decision to go to Northern, obviously the weather's not an issue. You're from Minnesota. You can deal with a cold winter, but what's colder, Minnesota in the wintertime or Marquette, Michigan?
I'd have to say Minnesota's colder, but Marquette will receive much more snow than Minnesota.
What do you guys get? It's like, what, a foot a day up there, something like that?
I'm not sure. I know at my freshman orientation they showed a slideshow, and just kind of given the background history of the area, and they had averaged 300 to 350 inches of snow every winter. So,
is that something that they don't show the guys from Florida that come up that same orientation video, right? They're just showing the summertime stuff and hanging out at the lake.
Yeah. Yep.
So of any of those teammates that came through, who was probably the most surprised that when you were there, be like, man, I didn't realize you guys are going to get this much snow?
Even guys like Spencer, being from Missouri, he kind of had enough of that at some point. But it kind of got to everybody almost like that. I know one year we came back from the U.S. Open in May, and we had snow like the next day, so it wouldn't really stop until middle of May or almost June.
As we talk about your career currently residing out in Colorado Springs, even though you still represent the Minnesota Storm, how much time do you spend coming back to Minnesota and training with Coach Chandler? Not
too much, but it does happen. I got back a few times after the Worlds last year, and I'm going to be going back for some family stuff after the Pan Am games here, but I don't know that I'll be able to get into any practice or anything. I just kind of have had to sacrifice getting back to Minnesota to be where I'm at.
So when your wrestling career is over, we'll touch on that in a second, but is there a plan to come back to this land of 10,000 lakes? I mean, I've lived in Colorado Springs. I've lived here. I mean, it's kind of comparable. I mean, the scenery there is awesome, but I guess, there's a different type of Minnesota living. I mean, are you guys going to come back here, you and your wife and your kids, or are you going to look to put some roots down there in Colorado Springs?
It's kind of up in the air. She would really like to move to her family in Texas, and I'd love to live in Minnesota. I don't really care to live here in Colorado or Colorado Springs. But it's kind of up in the air.
Yeah, and that's one thing I guess we learn when we get married is, people are like, well, why do you live in Minnesota? So, well, I married a woman from Minnesota, so that's why I live here. And I guess you might be, I don't know, your mustache, you might fit in really, really good down in Texas.
Yeah, I don't mind it down there, but it is definitely hotter than I prefer.
Now, obviously, the mustache, man. I mean, your Twitter handle's at Bisek Stash, and you became kind of an Uzbekistanian cultural icon over there after the bronze medal. Everywhere you walked around, and you've heard this story countless times, but it's like, where's the cowboy? Where's the cowboy? Or they point at you, go, Walker, Texas Ranger. I mean, you kind of became a little bit of a phenomenon over there. I mean, what was that experience like?
It was good to be able to have a tournament like that and then get the recognition that I did, from people that hadn't met or, known. It was fun, definitely added another element to winning the medal.
Now, prior to going to Taskhent, you guys had a training camp in Kazakhstan for a number of weeks, and in talking with the training partners and some of the staff over there, I mean, it wasn't just the Taskhent Rumble that hit you guys. You guys got hit with some serious food stuff in Kazakhstan. I mean, going into that World Championships, I mean, how many of you guys were 100% just based on the whole the eating situation?
Well, I think it affected everybody on the team at some point. And it wasn't like a 2-day thing or 3-day thing. It was, for some people, it was like a 7 to 10 day thing. And it was probably really good that we were over there in Shymkent for, the 2 weeks before. By the time we got to Taskhent, I was doing much better, myself. So
I understand you guys also had a bit of a border crossing issue because, for those that don't know, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan don't always get along. And with the foreign relations there, and with the border crossing, you guys had to take your stuff out and haul it a couple miles just across the border?
Yeah, so they don't let any kind of vehicles across, or if you were, I don't know, maybe you'd have to pay an outrageous type of fee. What we had arranged was a bus to the Kazakhstan side, and then you'd unload and get your luggage out. Start walking across the border where you're going through checkpoint after checkpoint. And once we were coming through there, I was with a group that had came to Kazakhstan a day earlier than the rest of them. And so we actually overextended our visa it was like a 14 days you could stay there, and anymore you'd have to pay and apply for a visa, which we didn't do. We just overstayed the 14 days by, I think, a matter of about 20 hours. So they pulled I think 10 of us aside and kind of questioned us, made us sit for about an hour, and then eventually got things worked out where we could go across. But we got to the Uzbek side and still had to get our passport checked probably 2 or 3 more times, and then walk to where the bus on the Uzbek side was picking us up about another mile with our bags. So
yeah, you're packing for a couple weeks over there. I mean, with a wrestling gear bag, I mean, you just guys have a couple changes of clothes and that's it. Or I mean, how much gear do you have to haul?
It kind of depends on the person.
All right, how much stuff was Robbie Smith carrying across versus how much Spencer was carrying across?
Yeah, so Spencer brings a lot usually. I think Robbie just had 1 bag and Spencer had, two check bags in his carry-on. I usually just tend to have 1 check bag, kind of get in the mindset that I'm gonna have to be re-wearing clothes, and it is what it is. Just try not to pack too much.
Now, when you're traveling overseas, I mean, you've done enough of these international tours. Was that one of the most unique experiences, or what is the most unique foreign travel experience you've had to deal with so far?
It was definitely like a unique culture over there. I hadn't been to any kind of location close to there. They brought one of the days we didn't have practice. Robbie and I went with one of the coaches, and they had us drink some camel's milk, and it was definitely a different experience. They had like this fermented curd type stuff to nibble on. It was pretty terrible, but it was definitely different than going to, I'd say, even like Eastern Europe. It's different. So
back in 2011, you had the opportunity. You were over in Istanbul as a training partner with Jake Fisher, and he got hurt, and that thrust you into the position, even though you were third on the ladder. You go out and you win a match, and do you look back at that moment being that was kind of maybe what flipped the switch to say, hey, I can compete on this level, I can make these world teams, I can win matches?
Yeah, I think so. You're kind of definitely showed me then, and then the next year the guy that I had beat, Kazakhstan, took third in the Olympics. So it's definitely seeing things like that over the years has definitely helped me change my mindset and elevate my mental game to get where I need to be.
So as we talk about Taskhent and obviously the mustache and various things about growing up, I think some of the top names we've come up with, and before you really became the Uzbek cultural icon, I was balancing it between either it was called Magnum or it was called the Sheriff. A couple Twitter mentions that we got, people suggesting to call it a snot mop or a bromerang. What is when you started growing that beautiful stash, I mean, did you give it a name, or is it just kind of taken on a personality of its own?
No, I never gave it any kind of name or much thought to it. I just was doing it. My coach Momir's had a mustache his whole life, so it's just kind of took that little piece from him, and feel more confident wrestling. Feel like helps me wrestle better.
So kind of like Jake Herbert's mullet, it's Robbie Smith's beard and Andy Bisek's mustache.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you think of Jake's mullet? That thing's pretty sharp.
Yes, it is. It's quite something. It's a good solution when you want to have long hair, but you want to wrestle. That can be a tough balance. So going with the mullet, it's a great solution.
As we talk about Taskhent again, the big breakthrough win there was the win over the Olympic champ Roman Vlasov of Russia, and that was a match where he had a big lift, and you counted a lift, put him on his back. And at what point in that match did you realize, hey, not only am I can beat this guy, but I'm going to beat this guy? I mean, you broke him there on the edge. You got a late takedown. You won late. You were in the match the whole time. But was there any point in that match that you're like, I got this?
I think it was right after it countered his lift, and kind of see him taken back by that. was was a good indicator to me that this is going to happen. I'm going to win.
Now, do you think sometimes when these international guys that, obviously the Greco-Roman culture in the United States isn't as accomplished as freestyle, and, there were no medals since 2009. Do you think maybe when the international guys draw an American, they're like, yeah, all right, we got the American. They're just penciling their name in the bracket next. And, do you think that win over Vlasov maybe made people look, we got to pay attention to these guys a little bit more now?
Yeah, I think so, or I hope so for sure. I've been to a lot of training camps, and the stuff we're doing in our practices isn't, they're not doing anything tougher over there than we're doing here. So there's no reason, we shouldn't be winning those tough matches.
You're talking about when you got to Northern that you weren't beating really anybody in the room. And where do you think you've improved the most from when you first stepped foot at Northern to now?
I think, my pummeling skills has improved a lot. Not getting overextended on the feet, not reaching too much. And then probably parterre. My parterre defense has improved quite a bit. I've always felt really good on top through most of my career, but defense has come a long ways.
Yeah, so when you're in that situation with Vlasov, who's got that good straight lift and picks up a lot of his points like there, I mean, he seemed to lift you pretty easy. What have you done since then to say, all right, I need to be heavier on the hips or get closer to the mat? Or with that defense, I mean, there's obviously some room that you felt you maybe needed to improve upon there, so that didn't happen. But what have you done to basically improve that defense or maybe the gaps in certain parts of your parterre game when defending a turn or a lift?
I think it's just kind of recognizing that, whatever position you're in, whether it's on the feet or on the mat, parterre, you can either be, aggressive or, reacting to the other person. And so when I go on bottom, I'm trying to make them react and stay ahead of them as opposed to reacting to their lifts. Then, it kind of makes it harder for them.
Now, the rules have been changed multiple times throughout your senior level career, and recently the Greco rules where the lift point is basically 2 now. How has that changed, your offense and your defense? What do you like about them? What do you not like about them? And how have you had to adjust your style based on, the rule changes in Greco-Roman?
I like the rules change. It's just, for me, it's just about continuing to drive forward, to be looking to improve position, to get a 2-on-1, get an underhook, get some sort of tie, and then advance from there, looking for a score. And whether you get a score, or not, if you're looking active, you're gonna be rewarded for it. You're gonna be given a chance on top, which is where I feel strong at. So at the same time, once I get on top, it's not about shutting down. You got to pick it up again to get some points to make it worth it.
Now, earlier last year, I guess it was technically last year, after the Worlds, there was a big Greco-Roman match at Madison Square Garden with Kyle Dake and the world champ Arsen Jolfala-Khan, and there was some talk. I know Dennis Hall was pretty adamant about this, about why weren't you the guy there? I mean, how interested would you have been in something like that? Obviously, there was I believe there was an injury during that time frame, but that type of opportunity to wrestle Madison Square Garden in a Greco-Roman match around the Grapple of the Garden. I mean, was that something you were interested in, or what was your thoughts on maybe how Kyle handled that match, or what you learned about maybe the fan base in terms of Greco-Roman?
I would have loved that opportunity. You're right. I wasn't in the best position physically, to take that at the time, but I loved the opportunity. I thought Kyle did a good job, wrestled really tough. It was kind of interesting to see that they picked him, or that they were pushing for him, but I don't make all those calls, so.
But when it comes to Greco-Roman, obviously, that was one of the things is like you're giving a freestyle guy, a shot at the Greco-Roman world champion. And we need stars to emerge on the Greco scene to make Greco more popular in the United States. I mean, Spencer talked about this a little bit in his interview, but what do you think has to happen for not just the American wrestling fan base, but for, the college fans that may focus on their Iowa fans are going to follow Brent Metcalf through his career. You guys really didn't have that college fan base to follow. What's it going to take for you guys to be not necessarily regarded as the stepchild of international wrestling in the United States to say, hey, we're Greco-Roman wrestlers, we're elite level competitors. You really should get behind us too.
I'm fortunate, to be from, like we already said, Minnesota, big Greco background. So I know a lot of people there, understand, Greco and the elite level that we are at, wrestling at the World Championships. And so I feel like you got, big support there in Minnesota for all that. But, in a few other states that are becoming bigger Greco, say like Illinois, they got guys there that there's some guys that came to Northern Michigan and then haven't continued wrestling since, but they kind of know the level that we're training at, and now they're coaching kids, kind of spreading the word and insight about us, which I can find that helping some, but it's definitely not like going through a big D1 program.
How important is it to you to be representing the United States when the World Championships are going to be held in Las Vegas?
It's huge. I'm real excited. Going to have a good number of family there, and just to be able to, just 1 hour time change from where I'm training every day, and it's gonna be nice. Pretty excited.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about anything with the food as long as you don't eat that. Well, actually, everything in Vegas is shipped in like overnight anyway. It's probably gonna be pretty fresh there.
Yeah.
So with a pre-match routine, I mean, how is your weight normally? Are you cutting a lot, or is it, is the diet kind of balanced? I mean, how does your training, eating regimen work when you're getting ready for competition? How do those two differ?
No, I just probably 2 weeks, week and a half before I'm weighing in wrestling, start monitoring it. I'm usually not anywhere where I'm super high or anything, so I just start monitoring, see how my body's adjusting to this change or that change, and kind of slowly trying to bring it down where I'm getting down to weight like the day before weigh-ins, and then go back up a little just so I have one workout left day of weigh-ins.
Yeah, and as it refers to Vegas again, the last time the World Championships were in the United States were in 2003, but that was only freestyle. This will be the first time a lot of people will have a chance to watch a World Championships on American soil in Greco-Roman. So the opportunity to create superstars heading into the Olympics is right there. Have you guys as a group or as a staff or as a team talked about, Vegas, this is big because, one, you've got to qualify the weights for the Olympics, which in some years Greco hasn't qualified at every single weight class. But, is there an added level of importance on this year's World Championships versus maybe the past?
Yeah, like you just stated, it's qualifying for the Olympics, but it's also the first in the U.S. in a very long time. So we want to make sure we, are able to perform our best for multiple reasons.
Now, of course, we talked about the coaching changes with Spencer Mango, and now you're a guy that's he's in the Army, so he's not dealing with all the national team staff nearly as much as you are. But with the coaching change going from Steve Frazier to Matt Lindland, brought in Coach Ahad, he's in there. He spent some time at Northern as well. And what have you seen in terms of differences that Matt Lindland and his staff have brought to the room? Obviously, Momir's still there with that again glorious mustache, but Lindland's a guy he won world and Olympic medals. He fought in the UFC. He's kind of got that gruff edge to him a little bit and a different philosophy. What is something that Matt Lindland's brought to the table that you really weren't expecting that's been really beneficial to the Greco-Roman program?
Well, I think, Frazier's big thing was always a grind match and, at least an hour long or sometimes 2 hours long. And Lindland, hasn't had us do any of those, but he's had us do these simulated matches where we're on the airdyne bike for 6 minutes straight, right away into like a minute of an upper body exercise, like a kind of like a battle rope type thing, and then right away into 6 1 minute goes with a new partner every one, kind of rotate on you. It's trying to, what Frazier's grind match was trying to figure out how to wrestle when you're tired, and this is kind of, or it's the same thing, how to stay in position when you guys get fresh guys coming in on you, and when you're already beat down a little. So it's similar process, but slightly different. And I think these matches that Lindland's having us do, have been beneficial, because you're going to get to that point where you're tired and you still can't get out of position. Otherwise, you're going to give up points in the big part of the match.
Was there any difference? Obviously, it was a short time frame between the time Matt got the job in the World Championships. Was there anything that you implemented, or he helped implement, or the staff implemented that helped you go from being at the World Championships to being a medalist, or was that something that you had kind of figured out on your own?
Well, we had started doing some heart rate monitoring last summer, and I think that helped. I had kind of seen that in my own experiences with my wrestling, that usually takes me a little while before I start scoring or get really active. And so what they, kind of had me doing was trying to get my heart rate up to about 170 when I'm stepping on the mat, instead of stepping on at 120 and using the first minute and a half or so to get to where I need to be.
No, we talked about athletes as they get older, and again, this is a subject we talked about with Spencer as he's married with a kid, and has fatherhood changed the way that you go about wrestling, or is it, how do you balance your time now that you've got other people to worry about? Because we said that wrestling is a selfish sport, but has that fatherhood and being a husband kind of helped you with your time management, or where do you think you are as you're a veteran here? It's not like you're just the young guy fresh on the scene, but those type of life changes change people, not just not just mentally, but maybe with athletic preparation. Where have you seen the benefits in maybe balancing time?
Yeah, I think it's definitely helped me. It's it's made me be more disciplined and structured. I need to make sure I'm doing what I need to do at a certain time, so I can get back and help with the kids, and just be there doing what I need to do in the time away from wrestling.
Been talking with Andy Bisek, world bronze medalist here on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. And the time we got left, Andy, it's opportunity for shout-outs. I mean, people, coaches, anybody you want to thank, go for it. It's an open forum for you to say what you want.
I just appreciate everybody that's supported me up to this point. And, it's always nice to know that you have people there watching what you're doing and rooting for you. So, I hope get a lot of people to come to Vegas, and I hope they're fired up to watch some Greco.
Now, again, when we go back as we wrap up here, the facial hair battle between Robbie Smith's beard and your mustache, if your beard and his mustache had to wrestle, where is the strengths of the beard and where's the strengths of the mustache, and who would win that match? And Momir's mustache is the official here, just to give you some more info.
Well, then I think the mustache definitely has some pull in it if Momir's going to be the referee. He's not so keen on the full face of hair, but the volume of the beard is it's quite massive. It kind of could just swallow up the mustache pretty easy, but mustache has got to be a little quicker, I would think.
You can follow Andy on Twitter at Bisek. That's BISEKS _stash. Of course, took its own personality for a while before you said, all right, you know what, I'm going to handle that Twitter account. But Andy, best of luck down the line. Obviously, you know, I'm a transplanted Minnesotan, so you know, go Storm, right?
Yep.
The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by Flips Wrestling. Share your attitude and be heard at flipswrestling.com. Like what you hear on Short Time? Drop us a rating and a review on iTunes by going to matttalkonline.com/getshorttime.